lunch once they're there. So I'm working on trying to get a little bit of funding to at least provide lunch while they're there. But if we did this earlier, 11 weeks, about 3 months, if we did this before someone was released, then we don't have to worry about providing funding for food because that's already being taken care of. So why should we be spending money to feed someone in prison, and then once they're out, we should be doing something to make sure that they're able to get through the day and provide meals if that's what's necessary. So we should be backing this up and doing this all sooner.
And we also to let the community know what they need to do to support you guys. But again, I definitely want to see something for people who haven't committed a crime or addicted or who have alcohol problems. There has to be something for them too, because they're spending millions and millions of dollars, and rightfully so. But I think a lot of times what happens is it's not reaching the people who was supposed to be attended for. And the target people that it should go to or get to, it seems like the trickle down effect. It's not happening. And again, if I have...
You know why? Because the prison system is a business. Let's not kid around. You got it in the stock market. Just think what's going to happen when this particular legislation and what you're talking about, these things work.
Yes.
But you have people who are working against it on the other side. So we had to convince, 59 other people to get on board with us. And right now I have about 15 different sponsors on this legislation. So remember, it is a business. It's on the stock exchange, the prison system. So we're fighting against that. But we know this is the right thing to do and the moral thing to do. And we're going to be successful with this.
Yeah, I think it's doable because there are some other states, it's been in the news in the past year or so where there were judges and others who were getting kickbacks. The more people they put in prison, the more money they were getting because they were making money per prisoner. Now, we don't have that situation here, and I think that
or they haven't been caught.
Well,
well, go ahead. That was me talking, not you.
No, that's in some of these other states, those the contracts to run some of these prisons or jails or city jails and county jails, that's what's driven some of the corruption in these other states. Because we have a statewide system, we don't have that going on here. So I think that we have the ability and the potential. There's no big vested interest, no big financial interest out there trying to keep us from doing this.
How can people in our community get involved to help get some of these things again? And I know I have people come to me and say, look, I don't want to keep harping back on the same thing. I haven't did nothing wrong. I haven't done nothing. And they're spending all this money over here. How can the people in the community, what can they do to try to help y'all help them?
Well, they can call the other legislators, the other House representatives, the other senators, and the governor. The governor, Jack Merkel, said that he's willing to look at this and work with us on this. I mean, there's no choice. We had no choice in the matter but to help people. Either you pay on the front end or the back end. You decide.
And are there any phone numbers that people can call?
Sure, you can. You can call my aide at 577.
I'm talking about down in Dover.
Yeah, this is a Dover number. It transfers over 5312. We put out surveys. Most of the legislators put out surveys on how people can help. I put a survey out throughout the entire 1st District. You can go to my website and say how you want to help out. This legislation went out to the governor's office, Department of Justice, the Public Defender's Office, to Rita Landgraf, to everyone to take a look. We got input from people throughout the entire state. Liz Allen, Floyd McDowell, Nick DeHatt, many people, the NAACP, the Urban League, people want this to happen because we need this for the state to help people.
Okay. I think it's important to call the governor's office, especially. I mean,
there you go.
Folks can call me, but I'm already on board with this. You don't need to convince me that this needs to be done. We need the governor to get those phone calls. We all meet with the governor throughout the session, and he has said that the feedback he gets from constituents is very important. If he doesn't hear anything on an issue, then he has to make an assumption that people aren't all that concerned about it. So we need to make those calls.
And we need money, Julius. I know that the casinos are wanting $30 million, and I chair the gaming and par mutuals, and Dennis is on there, and they're wanting $30 million over here to help a business stay afloat. They're making money. I need $5 million for my entrepreneurial and apprenticeship program to help people re-enter back into the workforce. That $5 million will help 250 people get into jobs, shadow people, and we can do this each year. That's much less than $30 million for a business already out there.
Also, I want to talk about, you was invited to speak on the podium of Tova Community Health, where it was about mental illness and health, and it was breaking the silence. It was breaking the silence, and again, you was part of the panel, which we will bring back, and we're hoping that it will be at PS DuPont under Dr. Anderson. She ran the show, and I think it was an excellent panel. But more people this time, we're going to make sure that more people attend, because I remember growing up, especially in the African American community, nobody wanted to talk about mental illness. It was your uncle was in that back room. They take him the food, didn't come out. You know what I mean? And it was everybody's secret. But now it's being dealt with, and I'd just like to hear your thoughts on, first thing, on Dr. Anderson's program that she had about mental health, mental illness, and we can talk about also too your brother, who was a great athlete, Oscar, and talk about some things about him.
Well, Dr. Anderson is very committed to what she does, and the workshop she had on mental health illness was an excellent program. It talked about some of the hidden facts where people don't want to mention that there are issues out here. Actually, years ago, the state started dumping a lot of mental health people when they started closing facilities that we should have open, and they were trying to get them to live in independent living sites, which they needed people to monitor them, and people were just walking the streets. Mental illness is an issue. I had a brother who was sick. He had some mental illness, not just mental illness, but he had some issues with drug usage. And his name was Oscar Potter, one of the best athletes that was in the state of Delaware. He was actually drafted by 156 colleges. What kept him from going was the fact that he ended up using drugs, and it changed his life. But the good news was, before he left this earth 15 years clean. He was able to get into a program, the 12-12 program. He was able to get into some other programs with family support. When you have someone who's mental ill or facing drug problems, it takes a lot of family support. And we supported my brother Oscar. My entire family supported him to give him what he needed to help straighten his life out. And he was able to do that. In addition, he was able to turn around and mentor and help a whole lot of other people. So it happens, but people can get out of that, get out of that situation. And that mental health program, she had other people on the panel that were just excellent people talking about what their situation is and how do we restore the person to a productive life.
Okay, is there anything that you want, well, you wasn't at the program, anything you want to talk about mental illness? Because it definitely affects everybody's community, but it's just a secret.
Yeah, I think we need to make sure we have adequate funding. It keeps coming back to, we have to look at what our priorities are, and we have to put the money where it will do the most good. There are group homes where people are living in the communities, and I have several that are in my district, and it's been an issue for a while. And part of the problem there is, some of the neighbors are calling and complaining, not because it's a group home or because of who is there, but sometimes the house itself is not well maintained. And the reason for that is that there's not the funding that's needed to do that. So the funding for some of these programs just has not increased over the past few years. And it's becoming harder and harder for some of the nonprofits who are running these programs to even stay in business. They simply can't operate on the slim amount of dollars that they're getting. And so we have to focus on that, because some of these programs work. And if you have the adequate treatment and the people involved in what needs to be done, then people can.
Let me ask a question. Do you think there will be a time where the state hospital, you had experts there, you had there'll be a time where maybe some of the budget money will go back there. And before you answer that, I would like to go to a commercial, and then we're gonna come back in another 5 minutes, and we're gonna take calls, but I would like to go to a commercial. But again, I want you to just think about that, about money being put back at the state hospital. I used to work there. It's like all the money went to prison and these other and I don't know if we have the right staff or right people who are trained, but just hold that thought, and we'll go to commercial, we'll come back. Okay, we're back. Again, so you had a chance to think about the question. I'll repeat it. Do you ever think there will be a day when some of the funding leaves the prison and goes back to the state hospital for the mental ill?
Well,
patients?
I think there are a lot of issues about the operation of the state hospital, as well as whether that's the best setting versus some of the group homes or other types of methods. So I don't know what the best way to do that is, and I have to rely on Secretary Landgraf and others to give us some information. But as far as funding goes, if that's the right place to put it, or other things that need funding, in the corporate world, there's always talk about, well, cutting headcount, and that's supposed to be a great thing. It's not always the best thing. And we could see that at the state level. Our head count at the state level outside of education is lower. But we've seen in the paper all of this overtime that's being paid, especially at the prison. We have guards who are working long hours, which is not good for anybody. It's not good for the guards. It's not good for the prisoners there as well, to have someone who's working and being tired. So if we hired more guards, we would save money, because we wouldn't be paying so much overtime. And that's one of those government inefficiencies where we could generate and have the savings to pay for drug treatment, to pay for mental health treatment, all those things on the front end that we need to do. There is money available if we start moving in the right direction. Let's get more prison guards hired and rely less on the overtime.
Okay. Also, you had mentioned something about when the people come out, far as they don't have money for the food and stuff, and some of the things we talked about last week. I know before, when I was president years ago at the Port of Wilmington, we had people who would come from the Plumber Center, and they would work, pay off their fines and stuff, and then they would go maybe get other jobs. But once I lost election, that was gone. Is there a way that there's different programs where these guys, when they come out, so they can pay their fines, because most of them are in debt, that they can pay their fine, not just the port, any type of setting that may can help them get a job, where to help them pay some of these fines and restore their manhood or womanhood back to society?
I think starting a program like this sooner, so that when someone gets out, they can find a job right away. The first group of people who went through this program, I think 7 out of the 9 of them found a job right away. They're averaging about $10.85 an hour. So they're starting to, be able to get a paycheck. And that's the important thing, is to get someone working right away if we can. So having that training earlier, and so coming out and getting that job. One of the things that we did this year, J.J. Johnson's bill about banning the box.
Right.
It was very important. Now that's just for state government.
Okay, but explain to the viewing audience who may not. I explained it last week, but who don't know what ban the box means.
There's a checkbox. Most job employment applications have a box where you check, have you been convicted of something? And frequently the employer will just take that and toss that application right in the trash. Well, by not listing that right away, you're in that pool of applicants, and they're going to actually read your application and maybe bring you in for an interview. You might be the best person for that job. There are safeguards after that if they want to follow up, but it's getting your foot in the door, and that's always the hardest thing. So if you eliminate that as a box you have to check off, then whoever's doing the interview will talk to you. Now that's at the state level for state jobs, but it's also important that we encourage the county government. I think they're actually doing it already.
They are.
Newcastle County, I'm not sure about the others right now.
Well, the city, I was
okay,
part
in the
of
city, yeah.
I was on city council when we did the resolution
Right.
to ban the box, as you and I both were sponsors of ban the box
Yes.
in the state level. We had to create more jobs. That's our job, to help create jobs. At the same time, we had to make sure we have a workforce of people who are ready for the jobs that we create.
Right.
So it'd be great if we had private employers do that as well. And these guys I met with this week, they followed up. Some of them have sent me emails. They were learning things, and I think that they would be good going into an interview. I think they would do well.
Also, for the city, I believe it was, and we gave them credit last week, of Mayor Baker and Justin Wright. I think they sponsored the bill for the city government for banning the box.
The mayor did an executive order.
Okay, yeah.
And we did the resolution.
Okay, and I wanted to thank the mayor, Justin Wright, and everybody else who was involved in that. Also, I want to let people know again that the legislators in Dover are doing their job, and when they do their job properly, things get done. We know about what Senator Marshall did with Senate Bill 3, and I mean, I can't say enough, and changed the whole economy. But we just had the Sunset.
About the port?
The Port of Wilmington, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
The Sunset Committee, and I'm going to get you guys to explain what the Sunset Committee means. The Sunset Committee is basically a watchdog group, what I call a watchdog group. And the port tried to go down there and get it extended extra 2 years so they wouldn't have to open up the books. The Sunset Committee told them no and made them open up the books. And right now we've gone through a process. Out of that process, what happened is that the Port of Wilmington was able to have, and he put the bill in to have an advisory committee. And basically with advisory committee and 2 more members on the board, advisory committee is going to have labor, community leaders, business leaders. If we would have had advisory board in place, I don't believe that the port would have happened with Kenner Morgan. Basically, I call it a backdoor deal. So, and I appreciate the Sunset Committee for doing that. Also, we have a building where we get hired that's called a hiring center. It's out of compliance. It's rodents, it's mold. The Sunset had made a recommendation that the port basically bring it up to code. The port was going to have to open up the books and be more transparent in the way they do things. And let me just give you a couple of examples. The legislators at the port at the state of Delaware have done an excellent job. The management team of the port, I don't even know why the governor have them still there. And I'm going to give you a couple of good examples. We put in to find out as far as the funding, because we're in negotiations. And we believe if things are tight, we believe in helping out across the board. But so we got the information we asked about cars and expenditures. The accountant, he put manager's cars down there, but he forgot to put his car down there. Now he gets a take-home, here's the accountant, gets a take-home vehicle. I don't know why he needs it, but he forgot to put that information. I've been asking the port I've been asking the Sunset Committee if they can do an independent audit. Also, we have we're in negotiations now. We have a good drug policy, but they're trying to do random. But they don't want to do random for directors. And I'm gonna give you a good example. We had one of the guys retired, so we had a beer, and they came down there like with the SWAT team, and y'all can't have it and shut it down. They had a Christmas party. They serving liquor, people falling down the steps, drunk, but yet in negotiations, they still won't issue a random drug tester for the directors, but they want it for us. It's so much things are going wrong, and some of the things, and we're gonna get a list. But can you explain, again, I think the legislators have done an excellent job bringing money to the port.
To the tune of $10 million that we supported, cranes coming down to the
But
port.
the fact is that the managing team, I don't know how to get away with it, but the Sunset Committee and the legislators have done an excellent job. Can you explain what the Sunset Committee means?
Can I say one thing before he elaborates on the Sunset Committee? The importance of the Port of Wilmington to the city of Wilmington and the number of people it employs in the state of Delaware is just tremendous. And as you said before, there were many people who, regardless of their record, were always able to work down at the port during the summer or during seasonal work. And so the Port of Wilmington is a tremendous asset to the city and to the state, yet the city doesn't get enough money back based on what the port brings in.
Yeah, I've been interested in following the port for many years now, and know that it is one of the biggest economic drivers in the state. And it's extremely important that we keep it strong and we keep investing in that. The Sunset Committee, it's a joint committee with House members and Senate members. So they meet and they review different agencies of the government to see if there's still a need for that agency or if the agency is still running and doing things the way that they were set up to do. Now, the Diamond State Port Corporation currently has 15 members. And my legislation would have increased that. And, there were some compromises, so it would now increase it to 17 members. And currently, of the 15, 12 are appointed by the governor, and 3 come from the General Assembly, from the legislators. This would change it. 17 members, 8 appointed by the governor, 9 appointed by the General Assembly. And the reason that's important is that with this whole Kinder Morgan deal and all the other things going on, the legislature really got involved last year.
Excellent
With Senator
job.
Marshall on the Senate side and some of us on the House side to make sure that all that came out in the light. Now the problem was, and my argument for changing things is that we should have known about more of this earlier because there was a lot of damage done.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the Dole, Chiquita, they could have left because there was so much uncertainty. Had we been involved sooner, had the legislature, who's really paying attention to all this, been involved sooner, then some of that could have been avoided. So this would put more.
What about the
Yeah. We also had the advisory. Now that was I won't take credit for that one.
That was me.
That was
our team,
Joyce and
right.
the Sunset Committee.
And Nicole,
Senator Nicole
I don't
Poore
want to call names out, but the Sunset Committee as a group,
is chaired by Gerald Brady,
right.
House Representative Gerald Brady, and Senator Nicole Poore, and they've done a
did
great
excellent.
job with this.
I mean, and they're not finished. In Townsend,
Yeah.
I mean, they really drilled them, and they're holding people accountable. But the good thing is now we will be at the table, the labor, the business community, outside, inside the gate, and people from the community, because there's environmental issues. But again, I can't say enough for the Sunset Committee. We're going to take some phone calls.
Julius, can I comment on that?
One second. I'm going to give a number out, 661-4468. I say it slow. My mom said I always talk too fast. Happy birthday, Mother! And
Oh, is your mom? Oh,
yeah,
happy
we got a
birthday.
surprise for you, but they didn't do it yet. But
Oh,
661-4468. Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead.
Well, I remember attending along with Dennis and other people many of those meetings down at Buena Vista, meetings here and there to keep the port there instead of Kinder Morgan coming in with liquefied gas. That would have been a disaster for us. And as you mentioned, that port is such an economic boom to the state of Delaware and to the city. I'll hold off and let them.
Okay. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, Julius, this is Pastor D. Good evening to your panel, State Rep. How you doing?
Hey.
I want to digress to the reentry discussion for a moment and say that while ban the box is, in fact, an achievement and a great one, we must look at the root of the problem, which is background discrimination. And I believe we've come to a place in our history where we need strong legislation that makes affirmative action Title VII guarantees extend beyond discrimination of color and gender, but also background, because they're going to find out about a conviction eventually anyway. And the reality is, even if you have a pardon in the state of Delaware, you still are discriminated against because of your background. So there must be legislation that says, look, it is wrong to discriminate against a person based on their background when they have paid their debt to society and have exhausted all of the legal remedies, except in cases where, such as, sex offenses and other things where people should be prohibited. But other than that, there should be an extension of the EEOC protections to those who have been formerly incarcerated.
Okay, thank you, Pastor D.
I totally agree
Answer
with
question.
him.
Go ahead.
I totally agree with him. I mean, if you did a crime and you pay for that crime, you're just like any other regular citizen, and all the opportunities afforded should be afforded to you as well.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes, I was calling about, I hear them talking about trades and helping people when they get out of prison. What about the halfway houses? When these guys come out, they have nowhere to go. They end up in a place where they're probably not wanted, and they end up back in jail because they leave and go to another place. I think we need more halfway houses here. And thank you, Julius. Last week was discussed about issues. Today you're bringing on solutions, and I appreciate that, because that's what Crossfire should be about. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Well, let me ask that question. House Bill 343, and I want you to get involved with this, will allow people to transition from prison to reentry, and this also include housing and education within this, because we're just, again, moving the money from the prison system and putting in this to restoration to help people out. So that will be covered in this as well.
Okay. Hello, you on the air? Hello, you on the air?
Sure. Hey, first of all, Julius, I think you're doing a great job, man. Keep it up.
Thank you.
And I know we're talking about people going to jail, but how does a person like that DuPont just, Scott Cleveland, he goes in front of the same judges that these other people go in front of, and they get the maximum amount of time possible?
Hey, good question. I'm gonna let.
Could you repeat that?
Can you repeat it for him again? He asked about. Okay, I'll take it. Okay, he asked about how can a guy do the crime as far as the DuPont guys. It was in the paper today, but yet he don't get no time, but everybody else gets time. How can that happen?
It's just flat out
you.
wrong. It's flat out wrong. I mean, the law is the law, and it should be clear, and there shouldn't be any exceptions. That's just like when you compare heroin to marijuana, and a person in the hood smoking marijuana, somebody in the high-rises, suburbs, are doing heroin, yet this person's getting life and this person's getting 6 months and a pat on the back. It is fundamentally wrong, and it's, that's discrimination.
Can what I also, especially with mothers out there, when kids get in trouble early, are there any type of programs that help them get a trade, help them not in the system, but I mean, I'm against certain charter schools, but I'm also, I like I said, the ones the guy with all male charter schools, I think is excellent. Is there anything that y'all can do legislationally that when people, before they get to that point, these kids, before they get to that point, y'all say, okay, might be some trouble here, we can put y'all here to help and get the proper training, the proper specialists, so we won't have these problems down the road?
There's a lot of good programs out there already, not just through the government. There's a lot of people doing good programs as it relates to internships, things of that nature. Not just the government. We're not going to be able to do it all, but we should do our share.
But there's also PAL centers, Boys and Girls Clubs, and there are activities. We need to make sure that they have the resources they need to do that, and that people know about it and can get there, and after-school programs. But like Charles said, there are some things out there we need to make sure people know about them and that they have the resources.
And the way we do it is through grant and aid.
Right. Hello, you on the air? Hello, you on the air? Last time, you on the air?
Oh, hello.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Hello. I'm sorry. Well, excuse me. I had another phone call. Hey, Charles, I want to say one thing. 343 is great, man.
Thank you.
Julius, you're doing an outstanding job. Keep up the good work. I think it's outstanding. All it is just a little bit more. When I say getting in there and the flow of things is good. But, Charles, what I want to say to you is this, man. Hopefully you'll make that point to have people come out for your fundraiser. That's a good thing.
That's right. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Nat, the only thing I can say is this is the point. Yeah, well, I'm going to throw a plug in there for you guys.
I appreciate it.
They're doing an outstanding job, and when we get good people like yourselves, and they give you an opportunity to be able to express yourselves as you can be, and we know that, and we need people like you to be able to get into the environment here with the young folks and the old folks and get them together to get them to understand that two things in this world that count: money and what's right.
That's correct. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you, Church.
And if you can do that in this process, we'll be fine. I'm going to leave you with that.
All right, thank you.
Well, Lenny's another dynamiter, and I have a fundraiser coming up on June 21st at Evelyn's. It's only $20, and Anything from $1 to
You want it?
$600,
Okay, I'm
I can
sorry.
accept. That'll help me out in my reelection campaign. And I just want to thank all the people for the support. And it is truly an honor and privilege.
I'm going to give you
for that.
when we close. I'll give you a political speech before we
Let
close.
me mention the young and old they just mentioned there. At this program at Claymont Community Center, there's also a senior center there. And some of the guys who were going down for lunch were going down to the senior center. And so you had these younger guys, and they're sitting there and talking to the seniors, and they're getting along well, and they're interacting and networking. And so there's a lot going on at the Claymont Community Center as well that really needs support and attention. So
Okay, you on the air.
Yes, I just wanted to ask both legislators if they also would support allocating more funding to inmates being able to get an education in prison, like a GED, high school diploma, learning a trade, or even get a college degree in college, because we do know that inmates who receive a college degree while they're incarcerated actually have a lower recidivism rate. So I wanted to know if that would be something you would support as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I would support, and something we got to look back into. They used to do it long ago, and appropriating money for education while in prison, yes, no doubt.
absolutely, yes.
And again, I mentioned this last week when I worked for Ruth Ann Minner, I was a community liaison, and I went to these meetings, and the African American community raised up, and they said, "Why should I pay for somebody to get a degree in college? And when I got to pay for my kid." I seen it, and I mean, I was blown away, and they killed it.
Well,
And
the facts of this,
maybe
Julius, is this.
bring it back.
Either, you want to help people stay in the mainstream and be a regular good citizen, or, it's about survival. Just imagine if you were not working, you didn't have a job, and you had a family, then you're going to do something that you don't want to do, and I don't applaud that, but it's about survival. So I would rather help you out in a positive way and keep you off that street committing crimes, and the people who are concerned with, well, that person was locked up and we shouldn't help them. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Everybody deserves a second, sometime a third chance.
I'm going to call the number again until they get the phone fixed. 661-4468. 661-4468. 661-4468.
And I've heard the concerns too about, why should we pay for this and you're not paying for me? But if we're already spending $36,000 a year, it's cost a whole lot less to make sure that someone who's getting out of prison has the skills, gets a job, and then they're paying taxes rather than, costing the other taxpayers $36,000 a year. So it's something we need to do.
Okay, go ahead. You on the air?
Yes, good evening, Julius, and to both of you legislators. I agree with you 100% about helping the prisoners. We rather just stick them in jail. They may have a heroin problem, a cocaine problem, they may have knocked somebody in their head. They get what they want, but we put them in jail, and we put them, and then they serve 6 months to a year. But isn't that making our streets more unsafe?
Right, and the key is to how can we have a productive
Okay,
society
thank you.
with people
Thank
working
you.
and have our streets safe at the same time. And that's what we have to do. It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand to lock away, throw the key away. As Shirley said last week, they will be out and they will be visiting a neighborhood where you live at. So there's no hiding, there's no gated community. You got to go out, got to go to work. And again, I think it's a good investment. But I would like to see even deeper than that. We grew up at the Boys Club era where, prevention. And I would like to get back into the prevention before people get to that point.
That's true.
Go ahead, you on the air.
Hello, my name is Lynette Williams, and I was just calling to ask a question. I see everybody's helping different groups and this and everything. I would like to know why they haven't helped the SAGE group and everything for the unsolved cold case about all this killing that's going on and everything.
Okay, we'll answer the question.
Well, Lynette knows that I've been one of their #1 supporters with helping SAGE, had them on my TV show, help at workshops that they have. And I understand the need and the cry for a homicide unit. It's no reason why the City of Wilmington does not have a homicide unit. That lets people know that we're really serious about solving these crimes. So don't come in the city or any place else and commit a crime, because we're going to get you.
Hold on, you're on the air. Hello?
Yes, good evening. I just wanted to say again that we all know that prisons are $1 million. They're putting tents out in deserts now, and they're calling them jails.
Right.
Okay. What a lot of people don't talk about is prisons it's for profit. And again, even the legislators, I just found this out, that the chairs y'all sit in are made from the prisoners.
Okay.
Nice, and they got good craftsmanship. Nice chairs are nice, but it's for profit.
So you did some research.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Hello, you on the air? Hello, you on the air?
Yeah, sure, I'm there. Hey, question for you. I just heard you guys say, I heard Mr. Potter say that the jails are on the stock exchange. I'm trying to do some research on that. How do I find out who owns these privately owned prisons and, things of that sort?
Okay, thank you. Also, go ahead, Charles.
Well, you can go on the stock exchange and you can find the different companies, but you have that corporate shield, where you can't tell who the actual owners are. Although sometime in Delaware, it doesn't matter when some of the minority companies have the corporate shield, they tell who the owners are behind those shields, but they don't do it for some of the other companies.
Yeah, and once again, this is, some of this is happening in a lot of other states where they do have these for-profit prisons. But I think once again here, since it's one big state prison system, we don't really have that problem in Delaware. But I just want to mention one other thing that you were talking about. I agree that we do have to focus more on treatment and preventing people from going into prison in the first place. Right. But we still have people coming out of prison every single day, and we have to deal with that too, until we can slowly bring that prison population down and keep people from going in. But we have those two problems. Yeah.
That our prison system is not the best, and we have work to do there. That there are some horror stories there that we have to make sure we monitor these prison systems where they treat people right, where people can come in and put their money on the books and they get their money, where they don't overcharge the prisoners to get their commissary.
There are outside vendors, and that's what you're talking about. But we don't outsource the entire prison, but there are the outside vendors.
The outside vendors are making a killing, and the private are making a killing. And the problem is not the money. It's are they being accountable? Pay them for production. If I don't see, if I'm spending, if we as taxpayers are spending $50 million to these private companies, and people coming out worse than they went in, we might need to think about changing that. We might need to think about if your statistics, if you see the recidivism rate is not dropping, we might need to get a new company. Why should I keep throwing all this money and I'm getting the same results? And so, again, maybe that's why they're doing the charter schools, because they think the public schools, but maybe they might need to think about that too.
Don't start charter schools.
No, but that, let me, don't make me say it. But what I'm saying again, we got to start holding people accountable. We're spending $80, $100 million on these private companies in these prisons, but yet we're not getting no results for a dollar, or tax dollars.
I agree with you.
And so maybe that there should be a standard.
Well, we had to do something different. 343, House Bill 343, Crime Prevention and Rehabilitation Act will do all the things you're talking about.
Okay. Anything else? I know we're ready to wind down. I want to say, I want to say about the Port of Wilmington, we will be watching. There's a lot of things going wrong. Again, I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds apiece to close it, because I see he's telling me to wrap it up. So, again, 30 seconds. Why you should be reelected State Representative Charles. Yeah, but we got 30 seconds.
Well, I love my city, I love my state, I love my constituents. It's about constituent service to me first. Everything else comes secondary. But it's an honor to serve the people of the city of Wilmington, state of Delaware. I'm your voice in Dover, and you have a different person than me because I have legislative experience and executive experience. So I bring a lot to the table in businesses, and I'm a straight shooter.
29, 30, got you. Go ahead, 30 seconds.
I've lived in the area I grew up in for the past 50 years. I know I don't look that old, but I've lived there, and I've wanted to work to help make things better in the district and in the state. What we're doing in the state is very important, not only all the way across the state, but it helps in the district as well. I think I've been doing a pretty good job there and representing Tallyville and Claymont, and we want to hope people will send me back there again.
I just want people to know that the legislators are working. Also, next week we're going to have state representatives. I'm sorry. Oh, you're going to kill me. We're going to have Mayor Dennis Williams and the new police chief next week. The mayor and the new police chief. And again, my mother, happy birthday, Mom. Somebody was supposed to do something, but I will deduct their pay. I definitely would deduct their pay. Again, I would deduct their pay.
Well, Julius can sing to us.
You could sing.
Julius,
Happy
thanks for having me.
Tune in next week. We will have Mayor-elect Dennis Williams and Bobby Cummins, the new police chief. Thank you, and see you next week.